Monette, and this is my channel, Evolve with Monette. I'm getting ready to head out into the world. One of my favorite things, going to one of my favorite places, Trader Joe's. I don't know if you guys have Trader Joe's around you, but I do. It's not necessarily around me, it's a little track, but it's one of my favorite things. And for the last few months, I have not been able to do Trader Joe's because I've been recovering, but I'm on the better end. So, I am going to head out to Trader Joe's and check out all of the magical gluten-free offerings. But for those of you guys that are new here, I am a professional intuitive empath, and today what I would like to do is talk to you about why it matters to slow down. Slow down, you're moving too fast. Getting my makeup done, and my angels were like, boom, pop on and talk about this. Because it was a theme that came up yesterday, guys. My lighted mirror is here living its best life. So if you see any reflections or things happening, that's what's going on. So it's something that I have been working on with clients a lot lately. It is not relevant to me, so I have a lot of people that write me and ask me questions about my life and stuff like that, and I'm happy to share. I am an open book, guys, for the most part. Um, but this is something that I did experience when I was dating my husband that was really advantageous. I also got to take a fresh look. It's amazing how God will give you opportunities to look at something again. Oh, by the way, spring forward. If you're in America today, we are an hour ahead. I just changed my clocks and everything. So, one of the things to spring forward, maybe that's part of the reading today or part of the lesson that they're going to have me teach today. But yeah, spring forward. As you're moving forward, and we are moving into spring, da da da. As you're moving forward, one of the things to understand in relationships is that you have to vet your people, and that's why I put this as vetting customs as a location. You have to vet your people properly, because what happens as we are evolving is that we will get into relationships with someone in a low vibrational state, and we all are there. Okay, we all have a shadow side, we all are immature, we all have relationships that are not healthy. It's part of our evolutionary state and being on this earth and incarnate. So what I will tell you is that we all go through this. Okay, it is normal. But as you're evolving, and one of the things that I really pride myself on is working with empaths and divine feminines. I will be including divine feminines in the title as soon as this uploads, but empaths and divine feminines who go through an evolutionary process where they maybe accept less. Maybe they're in third parties, maybe they're dating unavailable men, maybe they're dating married men or women, depending on what their preference is. And they're not accepting the best for themselves. Now, if you are into actually polygamous or polyamorous relationships, then that may be your preference. But man, I will tell you, it takes a strong stomach to do that. Not everybody can do that. In fact, I will tell you honestly, I've seen people have better affairs than I've seen them do polyamory. Polyamory is not for the weak of heart, and to be done right and well, but there's a lot of honesty, and there will be jealousy, and there will be emotions you struggle with, even when it's done well. So it's so funny to me, people that think that they can be the other person and they're okay with it. Not many of us have the stomach for that. In any case, what I will say, and what I meant by affair specifically, I meant as concurrent. So I walked through people's situations, also have been in my own in many iterations and lifetimes ago, and in this lifetime in my 20s is what I mean by many lifetimes ago, where people had their own situations and I had my own situation and all of that stuff was happening. There were situations and entanglements, and I would say there was one that I managed very well, and even towards the end of it, it got a little sticky. So, we all have our threshold for what we can manage, and that was again back to my point where my level of maturity was and my level of experience was, and also my level of self love was too. Okay, so back to you. When you are dating someone new, even if you're friending someone new, a vetting process is so necessary. And a lot of us want to accelerate because we are in a microwave society, our connections to people. We want to instantaneously be in love, be in romance, be in the honeymoon stage. Now, I was counseling a woman yesterday who I've been working with for, I would say, about a year. We met about a year ago. We were talking about our anniversary, actually. And it's a client of mine. And she was going through a breakup when I met her. And we were going through the the introduction to the breakup. So you guys know how when someone is breaking up with you, their behavior starts to change and it gets bad and whatever. So she was in denial about what was happening. She was still trying to salvage the wreckage of the relationship. He was absolutely sabotaging it. And so that's when we met, when she was still like, this is happening and this is happening and we're fighting over the animal and all the things you guys know, hashtag fill in the blank. We all have been there. And so, and he was moving out, but he was saying he wasn't. Then he was saying he loved her and it was confusing. One of the things that I specialize in is cutting through the confusion. I'm really good at reading through and putting puzzle pieces together regarding people, what they're saying and what they're not saying. Plus, I'm using my psychic intuition as well. But also, I have life experience, which I think we all can apply to these situations. So I was watching her go through this. And what happened was he got out of the relationship, sabotaged it because he already had somebody lined up waiting to deal with his codependency because he wasn't ready to deal with it and do the hard work. And follow me here, guys. So there's a point to this. So he leaves her and immediately gets married within a few weeks, maybe a couple of months even. And we're walking through sessions and I'm helping her through it. And she's devastated, as any of us would be, because they'd been together for 5 years. And he was treating her badly. It wasn't like it was 5 good years. It was 5 years of her putting up a lot of shenanigans, not loving herself, and she hadn't properly vetted him. Their beginning of their relationship was quite whirlwind. So it wasn't a surprise to me that he went on into a whirlwind situation. I predicted it delicately because you have to be very careful how you handle situations like that with people because all of our hearts break. No one wants to hear like he's, balls deep in the next person. And so I didn't necessarily say that, though I saw it and I knew it was happening and I was trying to prepare her for the exit. Months into it, she thanked me. She was like, "You were trying to tell me in your own way." And I said, "Yes, I was." And I was also direct too, but without being graphic because no one needs that heartbreak. Now, she's struggling with it. They have same social circle friends. They are in LA and all that jazz. And the reason I say that is because they're traveling in celebrity, like small celebrity circles, okay? I'd say like D-list celebrity circles. And so they're all running into each other. The wedding was very like a thing and it was on social media and all that stuff for her group of friends and family. And so she was really struggling with that. And I've walked her through. And recently she's been going through all kinds of stuff. And I've been helping her with that energetically as she's purging. That's another series I'm going to be making, is about how we purge medically our relationships, especially if they were particularly toxic. So when I tell you guys she's done the heavy lifting, she's done all the stuff, but she's had to do it while watching this guy move immediately on and be married. And it's been hard for her and heart wrenching. And I explained to her the reason that he jumped into that next relationship is because he didn't properly vet the person. And I predicted that he would be back around, skulking around, trying to be like, "Hey, big head," which, is a euphemism regarding like saying hi to your ex, especially in the Black community. So, "Hey, big head" is a funny kind of thing that happens. Like you'll see it on Twitter and stuff like that. If like someone's broke up and they're like, "Hey, big head, I was just checking on you." It's a like say it because big head is almost like a cutesy way of being like, whatever. It's a thing. Anyway, so even though this is a Caucasian couple, what I will tell you is that he did skulk back around December, right around the time that we were dealing with that Venus retrograde. Okay. And he like crept into her DMs and whatever because he was fighting with the other girl because he hadn't properly vetted her. It was a shit show. And he wanted back in with my client. And I had prepared her for it. So she called me the next day. She was like, "Oh my God, exactly what you said happened just in the time frame, yada yada yada." And I was prepared for it. And she turned him down. And I was so proud of her because even though she missed him and even though she still loved him and even though she was heartbroken at his quick move on to his new wife when he would not give her that thing, she loved herself and she did the vetting and she said, "I want the right thing like you promised it could be." And it's not promises from me, it's promises from her angels. They said, "If you do this properly, if you purge your emotions about this properly, what we're going to bring you is a right person. His is going to be a hot mess and it will be crumbling before it even gets into the year 2, and with you you'll be moving on actually with someone who values you because you valued yourself." So that's one of the messages that I wanted to give you. A lot of us have watched people that we have been with, dated, maybe ex-narcissist friends, whatever the case may be, move into new connections that seem blissful and happy. And we're like, "Whoa, wait a minute, did I not matter at all?" And you start to question your value. Yes, you mattered. Yes, you mattered. You mattered so much that they couldn't even deal with the vacuum of space that you left because it was a great gulf. One of the things I talk about here all the time is knowing your worth, empath, knowing your worth, divine feminine. If you, even if you're not evolved, even if you're low vibrational, meaning that you haven't grown up and you're in a different headspace, or maybe you had addictions or whatever, right? We all have our story and our testimony. None of us are perfect, but even if you are in that state, you're still offering better than the average person because you have some level of self-awareness. So I know that when I leave someone's life, that there is a vacuum that's created, and they will feel it, and they will feel it deeply. And I don't do it to punish people, because usually what do, guys? We hold on much longer than we probably should until we learn our worth and our value. Now I know my worth and my value. I stay nowhere. I don't care where it is. I don't care if it's friends. I don't care if it's family. I don't care if it's a lover. I don't care who. I don't care if it's a bestie. If someone is starting to devalue me and not appreciate me, then you can live without me and you can see what my value is. But I'm not doing it as a game. And that's something I highly recommend to you. You got to know your worth. I literally leave because I'm disgusted by the treatment. And also, I'm like, how dare you? There are a million other people that will treat me properly and that will come to meet me and that will value me. I edify people and I lift them up. I support people genuinely. I fill people's cup, and so do you. So if you're in a toxic relationship or in an unrequited, oh God, that is my least favorite word. I've dealt with a lot of unrequited, right? Maybe a lot of you guys here have too, where people don't love you the same way you love them, and they like that you love them, so they'll keep you around, but they're not loving you and investing in you. And that's unacceptable to me, and that's why vetting people properly matters. When you watch your ex, like my client I was speaking about, move into the next relationship, that's not easy. It has been a hard year for her, but I'm so proud of her because she did the work, and she's purging medically the toxicity that was lingering in that relationship. She's doing her soul retrieval, and I'm walking her through all of that stuff and the relationship. New dalliances and new dating opportunities are coming in within the next month for her, as the prediction came through, but she's not ready to dive deep into them. They're just getting her feet wet again, but they said they will bring her in a contender and someone that is appropriate for her. But she did not microwave a relationship, and was not in her ex's DMs, a few months into his marriage, that he was calling her and wanting her back, and feeling like he made a mistake, because he did, because he didn't properly vet the next person that he plugged into. So be careful, guys, of the next people that you plug into. You need to vet them, and it cannot go quickly. I'm so proud of my client. We'll call her Jay. I'm so proud of Jay because she did not react. She did it the hard way. She did the heavy lifting. She did not just immediately get into a new thing, and she could have. She's a gorgeous, hot woman. She can pull, meaning still pull and acquire men of that are interested in her, but she has processed this the real way with some ice cream, with some tears, with a little bit of weight gain, and then a lot of weight loss, and she got herself back together, and then got really into a gym body. We're talking about revenge body. She really did the work, and now she will pull in someone that is of her worth. And the reason she will is because she knows her worth. She knows her worth. What can happen with the optical illusion of the ex that moves on immediately has already got someone lined up because they can't deal with their codependency. They're not ready to really do the work. Is that it looks like, oh my gosh, I need to catch up to them. Oh my goodness, they're moving on and they're so happy. And guys, I'm not talking to you from a place of like, I can't understand. And hypothetically, I have felt this. I have seen this happen in my life. I have been through it. I've had it happen with lovers, and I've had it happen with friends. And when it happened in the friendship realm, someone had already been grooming another person from their covert narcissism, and they did it. And I was like, wow, I was so hurt. I was like, wow, they're happy. She's having the best relationship. It was a shit show. I knew that because of the work that I do psychically. I really understood it, but I am subject, just like you, to every one of those human emotions, psychic or not. And I had to feel all of the feelings that you guys feel of being forgotten, of being left behind, of her replacing me with someone. Y'all, now, one thing I will say is I never had any dispersions about the person being better than me. That's one thing. That was not one optical illusion she could create, because I know my value. Even in low vibrational moments, even in depressed moments, even in low self-esteem moments, I was like, you are tripping. And you tried it. I was actually, it's one of the things that turned me off, to be honest with you, was I was disgusted by the choice, and not in a jealous, like, how could you? I'm a bad or B. No, I just knew the character and the caliber of person I was versus she, the other person that I was triangulated with. Yeah, that's tested, proven, vetted, and there are reviews. I knew who I was. So that was a funny thing to watch. So fortunately, it didn't have the same effect on me, but I still didn't escape the shrapnel of the pain of having someone that I had poured into choose someone else and tell me about it in my face and be rude and hurtful, cruel and purposeful. So guys, when that happens, and that's the same thing that happened with my client. This guy was a jerkbag in every way. I was disgusted. But I used my disgust and transmuted it into growth for her, and then she did the same for herself. When you are moving into a next relationship, do not just grab the next person on the shelf because you will live to regret it. In the circles of recovery, like OA, AA, and NA, all of the A's where you're doing Alcoholics Anonymous or Narcotics Anonymous, and for me, Overeaters Anonymous at one point in my life, I have been in those circles. So for me, it wasn't other addictions, it was food that I dealt with. But I've sat there and there's a thing that happens where you may date somebody and they tell you not to specifically date people in any of those recovery circles because you guys are all broken people and we're all broken people, period. Whether you're in a recovery circle or not, everybody's got a level of brokenness to them. So, message spoiler alert, none of us are perfect. However, when I sat there, I did do the cardinal sin. I didn't think I would. I mean, I'm in OA. I ended up being someone's personal chef because I was working at the time and I was in culinary school at the time, and I ended up dating this lady. She was a pastor, and she kind of like snacked me. I'm gonna be honest with you. What I mean by that is she hit on me. She was like, "Hey, come over. Hey, this whole food thing is weird." And she wasn't even obese, which was funny to me because she was in this like place, and maybe she was like maybe 30 pounds overweight. She wasn't like obese, truly, but she was like, "I really want someone to cook for me and whatever." And that's how we ended up hooking up and like being around each other and dating. And I enjoyed her, but it was an instantaneous relationship born from trauma bonding. This is what I'm saying. It's important for you guys to understand that when you are getting into new relationships, it can't be built on trauma bonding. It can't be built on your toxicity. It can't be built on a drug addiction, an alcohol addiction, a food addiction, whatever you name it, fill in the blank, shopping, sex, gambling. It can't be built on that because it will not last. And we dated for a few months and then it did not last. We didn't really have anything in common. I've made other videos about her, about one of the best breakups I ever had, but she was really honest with me and I was honest with her. We were at different stages in her life. And right now she is married and she has a beautiful wife and she manifested exactly the right person in her life. It was not going to be me. And I moved on and I married and I manifested the right person in my life and it was not going to be her. But it was an interesting case study in microwaving our relationship and not well vetting it. Fortunately, it wasn't toxic. Not every situation in life has to be that way. Thank God. I've had some people I've dated where it wasn't toxic. It was just awkward or weird or didn't fit or whatever the case may be. But we got trauma bonded from being in that recovery room together and then started hanging out and whatever the case would be, a little May December romance. She was older than me, much older, and all that stuff. And it was cool. And so I was like paid chef for a while, and then I was like a little boo, and we traveled and it was fun and it was okay. But the point is that I didn't vet her properly. I didn't even know what that was. I was in my 20s. I was a hot mess. And she was a mess in her own way, admittedly, right? But we moved on. And that was one that didn't hurt too bad. But that's an example I can give where I got into something and I did it quickly and it didn't last because it wasn't built to last and it wasn't built on it wasn't predicated on a real connection. It was predicated on our trauma bonding for our specific issues regarding, eating and food and compensating or coping with our addictions. So that's what I will tell you is that when you're getting into a new relationship, after you've done a lot of that heavy lifting and work, you can now get into one that will actually work and go the distance, one that actually supports you. One of the messages that comes through that I teach a lot is that we create from contrast. So we create our next relationships, next opportunities, next job opportunities, whatever the case may be, from the contrast of what we had that went badly. And fortunately, for many of us, we've had things go spectacularly badly, like the Challenger explosion badly, like that actually blew up in midair. And I remember watching that when I was a kid because they had us outside to watch that take off and the devastation and the realization that this did not end well. And a lot of us have had relationships like that, right? So the reason that happens is because there was some system, there was some malfunction, something was not properly tested and vetted. And what I realized is I had some core principles that I had ignored in the getting into my relationship with the person who discarded me so easily. And it was that I trauma bonded with that person and bonded with her immediately. I depended on our chemistry, which was very, very intense, energetically. Forget about physically, sexually, or anything else. Just we had good chemistry. And I depended on that. And I hopped over the love fence and I was like, girl, I'm all in. And I didn't really take a look at who she was. And I didn't listen to all the context clues because people will always tell you who they are and show you who they are. And what does Maya Angelou say? It is our job to believe them. Thank you, Dr. Angelo. It is our job to believe them and believe them the first time. People don't change their stripes. Anyway, so here's the message. If you're watching your ex get into that next thing and you're like, oh my God, how did they move on so fast? They didn't. They didn't heal anything that was gaping and oozing and pussing in your relationship that they helped to create. Okay, it takes two. And they just wanted to immediately forget about you. They wanted to anesthetize the pain. So they did that by moving on quickly and in vain to a relationship that was never going to satisfy them because the person doesn't even know their last name. I'm telling you, I've seen people move on that quickly. Now let's talk about the bright side. Is Mr. Brightside. The bright side of it is when you vet somebody, it is meant to stick. I have naturally had the opportunity, even though I am in a marriage relationship, I had an opportunity because of the discard that was from a friend, a best friend, a frenemy, a covert enemy, you name it. I have lots of videos up here about it when I was a lot more bitter, hurt, and it was fresh. So if you want to hear them, go back and listen because they're there. But what I will tell you is I'm not there anymore. I could care less about what happened in that connection other than to case study it and use it for your protection and use it so that you can move forward into relationships where you don't feel like you are getting played again. And that was one of the things that I felt was like, wow. And here's the thing, if you want to break it down, some people have abandonment issues, some people are have avoidant attachment styles. I definitely was dealing with someone like that. So people like that will sabotage a relationship before you can leave them. I'm going to hurt you before you hurt me. And if they even think in their crazy brain that you're doing something that is betrayal wise, because it's what they would do, they will try to do it to you first. And that's exactly what happened in my case. I was not behaving the way she was. She assumed I was because that made her comfortable because she did not connect well. Her synapses didn't fire and she wasn't on the right medication. She was self-medicating and it went awry. Okay. It was definitely a Challenger explosion, but that's okay. That needed to happen to put me in the right trajectory to be in the right relationship. Message. Sometimes these relationships that we grip onto that are so filled with toxicity, a la my client that I spoke about at the beginning, we need to have the universe come in and blow them up. If you're reading tarot, that is called a tower moment. The tower in tarot is one of the most formidable things that you can see, and people get really freaked out by it. It's associated with scorpionic energy. Scorpionic energy changes things and it brings a death to something. It good, bad, or indifferent. If you're dealing with scorpionic energy and it comes up several times in the tarot, even as the death card, it will end something. Scorpionic energy, specifically in the tower, is related to workplace situations or working something out or interactions on an interpersonal level. And it's an explosion where lightning strikes and the tower blows apart and people fall out of it. It is a universal hit, meaning it's like the galaxy strikes back. God and your angels will not allow you to stay in a situation because for your highest good, you have to leave it to move into the thing that's actually well suited for you. And a lot of times we people will not do that, especially my empaths and my divine feminines. We will hold on to a situation far past its expiration date until it's so toxic that we literally have to be pulled away in order to free ourselves. And that is exactly what happens when you have those crazy breakups and you see someone move on with someone else. It is your angels and ancestors intervening because they're like, you don't see the level of toxicity. You're not hearing the way they're shit talking you. You don't hear how they think they're getting over on you and they're making this new person their one and only precious boo when they don't even know who that person is. And that person's actually a devil in their life to cause a tower moment. It's kind of funny. It never fails, guys. I'm not wrong, I tell you. So I will say, that new person's usually the person to bring toxicity their way. And a lot of my clients are like, but they're still with them or they're married or whatever. Yep, and living in misery. I have no doubts about it. I don't question. And even if they're happy, guys, there are maybe some like 1% cases where they're happy. Even if they're happy, then that means it wasn't a place for you to be. And that is how I painted it in my mind. In my situation, I told the person, make it work with her, be happy with her, and all that stuff, because that's the best you can do. And I didn't say that as a dig. I said it because it was true. I felt like that's what the person who had treated me atrociously felt the best she could do was revolving back or devolving back into toxicity and familial patterns and stuff that I understood, but I was like, I'm tired of explaining it to you, girl. You'll figure it out as being in it. I am so done being your cliff notes and your cheat sheet. And empaths and divine feminines, we do that. A lot of us will predict to the person, no matter whether it's a bestie or a lover, and be like, hey, this is not going to go good. And they're like, you're the enemy. Remember Sparta? They want to like take up arms with you. I stopped once I tell somebody something once now, I'm like, okay, unless it's a client, I will work with you. And even my clients, I hold them accountable for doing their own work. My favorite clients are the ones who dig in deep and do their own work, even when it sucks, even when it's painful. Now, let's move back to you and manifesting new. Vet the people properly. Take your time to understand that they are right for you. I have gotten into, and you guys have heard me talk about our friendship. And so, because romantic partnership is not the thing for my life now, that part is filled. I've gotten into a friendship that is so lovely and fulfilling, but it is not cloying, it is not clinging, it is not overbearing, it is none of those things. And the reason is because I created from contrast. I wanted a partnership, a friendship that was built to last. And my friends are my partners, okay? I have no issues with names and monikers because I understand you have a life partner, that's my husband. You have romantic partners, I've had those too. And yes, you can have romance with your husband as well, but you have to understand that different people will fulfill you differently. And I think that we make the mistake, especially my sweet empaths, of thinking one person can be everything. No, many people will be multiple things to you, and you outsource appropriately and accordingly, and that's healthy. Far more healthy than making one person your everything. That's what your toxic ex did. They tried to make one person their new everything, and that person didn't even have a fraction of the things that they needed. And instead of having diversity, they decided they wanted to be, you know, crazy and just be with one person. We all have done it, okay? Guys, I've talked to you openly about dating women for many years of my life, living very much as a lesbian. I'm bisexual, but dated women for many years of my life, and there's a thing called U-Haul, where you instantaneously get with a partner and move in and begin your life, and you're immediately all each other has, and you're not allowed to have other friends. It's not said out loud, but it's an implicit understanding of jealousy because of how women operate. And so you squeeze out all your other friends and you do all that, and it's the biggest mistake. And I will tell you, I've watched people do it time and time again. I even did it a couple times, and I was like, that's crazy. I'm going to always keep my friends. So I made that pact to myself, and it certainly paid off. But what I will tell you is, women or men, we all know women that have even dated guys that squeeze out their friends and they become that person. What they're not done is they're trauma bonding and they're not properly vetting. In the relationship that I had the pleasure of getting into, it took years for me to drop into a comfort level with that person and for her to drop into one with me. We had all of our infatuation, as you do with any new bestie, right? There's a real infatuation. It very much replicates falling in love, where they're like the best person in the world. They're all you think about. They're all you talk about. They're yada, yada, yada. And then you drop into real comfort with them. That means that the conversations get realer. That means that you can say no to each other. That means that you can like criticize each other a little bit and be like, I don't like this, or I'm worried about this for you. I'm concerned, or this doesn't, whatever, whatever. All of that can happen where you can talk about your situations, your spouses, all of that stuff, and you can do it from a calm place. We have dropped into different levels of our relationship. It's not any longer in the infatuated, like, state of like, da, 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 da. You guys know how it is. Having a new bestie is definitely like falling in love. There's some kinship there. There's some things that are akin. New friendship chemistry is just as powerful as love chemistry minus the sex, right? But what I will say is that the thing I loved about this is that I love when relationships deepen, and you don't get that if you're not properly vetting. It took me years to feel fully comfortable, and it took her years to feel the same way too. And we had milestones that I've talked to you about some of those, but the things that I found that I value the most are the places where we're just comfortable. The telepathy that you share when you really get into a relationship where you're well vetted. You guys know what I'm talking about? So if you've been in a romantic relationship, you know how you share the same thoughts or call each other at the same times. That still happens in friendships too. So there's all these beautiful things that you have that you think you have when you have chemistry with someone immediately, but that does not necessarily last. It peters out. And that's why, if you want a good, healthy connection, vet the person for a long time. You don't have to take as long as I did. Because we were friends and it wasn't sexual, we got to take a long time to really get to know each other. Now we're very comfortable with each other. Now we can travel with each other without blinking an eye. Now I understand her family and her kiddo and all of the stuff, right? Like I really, and her kiddo is a 30-year-old woman. So, but I understand her child and I understand her mentality. I understand how important family is for her. I understand a lot of things about her now, and she understands them about me. She knows my habits. She knows when I'm sleepy. She knows that I need to go to sleep. She knows when to communicate with me. These are things that take time. I could have told her and given her a full list of things, but it took time for us to understand each other. The same will be true of your romantic partner. My relationship with my husband is much more involved and deep, and we really get each other now. Still learning though every day, right? And that never goes away. But what I don't want is for you guys to end up surprised. For those of you that got it in those toxic relationships, as we all have been, and the person just like flips your life upside down, you don't recognize them, and they sabotage the relationship overnight and turn into a shapeshifter and a werewolf, and they're like transformers of evil, and you're like, what happened? That's because there wasn't really proper vetting. There was a superficial level of the relationship that you stayed in. And I would like to say that after a 20-year relationship, I didn't think that I was that way. I thought, no, I know this person, but I didn't know them at all. They completely shocked me. Their behavior shocked me. Even the behavior that I knew was low vibrational, meaning when they were in addiction or when they were infatuated with somebody or what they thought was love or whatever, I knew that they behaved badly. They neglected themselves, their child, other things, whatever. I understood who they were, but to see it play out the way it did was still a shock to me. And I think a lot of us have had that experience, especially in a divorce or anything of that nature, right? And that's because I didn't vet her right. I just loved her. I loved her in spite of herself, and I did what we do as empaths and divine feminists is I overloved her, and I enabled her to never carry any part of our relationship. And the connections that I have now, my husband, my friends, whomever, they have to carry the relationship too. I'm not carrying all of it, and I'm not chasing you. I will definitely partake with you and participate with you, and I am very gregarious, and I recommend that you be too, meaning I show my love in all of my love language ways that I want to. So if I love someone, I show up for them, I communicate with them, I compliment them, I gift them, I spend time with them, I carve out all the ways that it matters for me for them to know I love you and I value you. But I also expect reciprocity too. That's one of the things I learned regarding our vetting situation. Make sure to check that the relationship that you're in is reciprocating to you, that you are getting back what you're putting in, and that you feel like this person is seeing you and that they value you and that they want to be in connection with you and they like being in connection with you, and that they don't think that you love them more than you love them or they love you or whatever. There's an imbalance that we can get into. I'm very gifted. And I feel gifted is what I mean to say regarding, and maybe I'm very gifted too. Maybe sometimes we gotta say we're gifted, but I understand now what a blessing the friendship I have is now, and I know exactly how much of not a blessing the last friendship was to me. It held me in spaces where I needed to be held, so we gotta like pay homage in that way too. I'm out of the I hate you, I hate you, I hate you. But I will tell you, they could never come close to me again because I know my value, and I see how little they were offering. Y'all, it's kind of embarrassing. That's another thing. When you don't vet people, you look back and you're like, wow, you got away with murder. Quite actually, maybe literally. I don't want to know. Let me get out of her business. I literally now know how much I sold myself for, and it was shekels. And she sold me for that too. That's the funny thing is people will mirror you. I did not have high value in my friendship. I didn't realize what an incredible, immense asset I was to her life. Now I know, and now she knows too. But she wish she could rewind that. But Roger that. You don't like me. Isn't that you guys know that song? You don't like me. Copy that. Yeah, copy that. I totally understand now. And she didn't value me, and she was weird and wild and racist and a lot of things, and it was crazy. And I shut my eyes to all of it because I wasn't properly vetting. I don't want you to be in that situation. Take time. Love goes slow. Truly. Truly, it takes time to know someone, and you could be with them for 20 years and still not fully know them as I did. And in this new relationship, I have realized like love goes slow, and it's taken us layers to drop into. I have friends that I've been friends with for 15 years, and I have delicious relationships with them where we can talk about our fears, where we can talk about our assholery, where we can talk about the places that we see ourselves going, where we recognize our limitations in each other's lives. And I value that so much, but we did it right. It took time. It didn't happen overnight. Now, I will say this, being psychic means that I know right away that I'm going to have a long term connection with somebody. And it usually takes other people a while to catch up. I know right away if we're going to be in love, if we're going to be in like, if we're going to be in friendship, chemistry for life. I know. And sometimes that scares people because sometimes I get excited. Can you guys relate, my empaths out there? Like an excited puppy, and I'm like, you're a person, you're one of my people, you're a part of my soul tribe, right? And I'm very effusive with my love. So I'm just like, hey, I love you. Words of affirmation are my primary love language. So I will say it to someone. And I have on more than one occasion, scared people away. They usually end up being my person anyway and being my friend. But at first they're like, this bitch is crazy. What is she talking about, that this did it up? But it's because I have psychically seen it, and I understand in the Akashic records. I've taught about that here. If you're curious, I have a video. The Akashic records, the derivative of the word is ether, so it means the heavens. So if you guys are familiar with Christianity, the book of life where everything is written and our destinies are kind of ordered for us. So in any case, in the Akashic records, I know when I'm opening up to meeting a new soulmate. Now we have soulmates that come in that are karmic and that will ruin our lives and cause us to lose everything. A karmic soulmate causes you to lose, just a heads up and a refresher course here. And a positive soulmate will cause you to gain. They will edify you, they will raise you up. I got to see diametrically how opposed the two people in my life that were both soulmates in a way were. The new person that I've properly vetted, that I've taken time to drop into relationship with, and the old person who I immediately U-hauled with emotionally. And actually, we actually ended up U-hauling and living together for a hot minute, but the years ago. But what I will tell you is that they were both soulmates. They truly were. They truly are. One is still, and I can't say the other one wasn't, but she was a karmic toxic soulmate, and she was meant to cause me a lot of pain and teach me incredible lessons. I am grateful for her. Because of her, this channel exists in so many ways. I had the channel before I knew the betrayal was happening and before I predicted it, but I was able to streamline it into my real calling, which is helping you get into your next relationship and do it properly and well vet people and teach you. So I learned so many invaluable lessons from her. She didn't sit down and teach me. She could not comprise or compound that and turn it into something lucrative. That's not anything she could do, and it wasn't meant for her to do. It was meant for me to do. But just her being a toxic turd, a garbage person, was exactly what I needed to catapult me into the space of making sure that I live fully in my destiny. I was in my calling, but now I'm in my north node living my destiny. And it's because of a catastrophic occurrence of someone sabotaging me purposely and repeatedly. The tower moment happened, scorpionic energy, it killed off my old soul and the person that I used to be, and it put me exactly into the person I was supposed to be. Deepak Chopra says there are people waiting for who you are becoming. Empath, divine feminine, I ask you, who are you becoming? And I promise you this, once you shed off all of the old toxic people and the bad vibes, I call that person the last of the Mohicans. I could never have another relationship like that because I know my worth, I know who I am, and I fight back. I am not passive, I am not a doormat. While I have been all of those things, I've been those things to show up here for you that are listening, all 22 of you. I show up here for you and I say, this is not the way. We do not have to stay there, and we don't. We do evolve. It's not just my channel's namesake. It is a trajectory of our life, empath. It is what we are supposed to be, divine feminine. You deserve relationships that are not crammed full of toxicity, my loves. And I promise you, if you take time to get to know someone, you can ensure that you are not going to get it wrong. It won't always be right, and no one is perfect, and they will not always make you happy, and they will not always see what you see. Like I said, I have effusively been like, you're a person, to people that didn't get it immediately, but then they do. That's another thing. Let people come to you. Let them wake up to the idea and the reality of who you are in their life. Sometimes with our very intuitive energy, we want to make sure people get it right. But the most delicious things that have happened to me have happened when angels have confirmed to other people through signs and signals, through cards, through a license plate, through a song, through an emotion, through a telepathic connection that I was, in fact, their person. I didn't, we want to kind of be like, it's me, look at me, and like put on the neon signs. But the most sexy and the most rewarding and the most lovely and the most kind connections have happened when they've happened gradually. And that only happens with proper vetting. See, it's not just you doing the work when you're in a spiritual way, when you have angels and ancestors that love to come out to play, they do it too. Your parents, if they're crossed over, communicate in the ethers and they say, these two, there's something going on here and I like it. And we're going to put them together purposely. Your angels get involved and they say, we like the course of this destiny. This person is going to raise this vibration for the other person, and this person is going to raise the vibration of this person, and they're going to teach them each to have other things to teach each other, and they're going to vibe off of each other, and they're going to grow. And we like to see that. It's going to be quite a show, and the stars will light up. I love that. It's so much better than what we did in the past, right? What I did in the past, which is trying to force connections and make them last and stay while someone was treating us so horribly because we, our own worth, could not see. When you allow your angels and ancestors to step in and help you vet, they do it properly. And the other person is just as endeared to you. They're just as attached to you, but not codependently because they've done their own work. They want to be with you because they see your worth and they see how they can add to you and how you add to them. They don't take it for granted. They are not a fake friend. God bless America. God bless my angels and ancestors, and God bless you. God bless Ukraine too. Slava Ukraine. I will tell you that getting into a vetted relationship is not the same as the whirlwind hot pants relationship that many of us have been in. It's nice to do it right, and it's also rewarding because it lasts. I don't question people in my life now loyalty. Friends that are new did not happen fast. Not just the bestie, other people too. Even my relationship with my husband, nothing was accelerated. The things that have lasted in my life took time. There was no instantaneous friendship. I'm not 12 years old anymore. And while I talked about my bestie proposal and said it was out of my Lisa Frank dreams, it was. It's so funny how God will give you a dream. I always wanted a friend that really valued me and knew it and didn't always choose someone else when it came down to it because of the racial structure in my life, because of the way I am and show up in life. People have always struggled, low key, high key, with whether they were embarrassed of me. Also, because I was weird, y'all. I'm me. I'm an eccentric, intuitive, psychic person, and that's always how I've been, and that's always thrown people off. And I thought I was the crazy one. Turns out, no, the rest of the world caught up with me. But it takes a strong person with their own character who likes who they are to not waver under the peer pressure of the world when I'm your best friend, or I'm your girlfriend, or I'm your girl, or I'm your favorite girl, or I'm whatever it is in your life. And there are a lot of people that could not handle that. Maybe the same is true for you, empath. We often are eccentric, right? And some people will want to succumb to the peer pressure. Well, when God puts someone in your life, when your angels and ancestors get involved, when the universe is orchestrating it, then they will pass the test and they will not waver to the peer pressure of other people that can never understand your greatness. You understand? It's a really cool thing to have people know, I don't just want to be your friend. I see the benefit in being your friend, but beyond that, I want to protect you, friend. And I didn't understand that that was something that I could really have until I did my vetting properly and I realized my own value. I realized the value in me. And that's what I want to leave you with today. Vetting is great and going slow is highly recommended. But until you know that you're worth it, then you can just forget it, meaning you will find yourself right back into a toxic situation. I really, in my tower moment, understood my greatness. And I don't say that with any level of condescension. I don't say that from a supercilious place. I say it from knowing that we are awesome empath, that we give good love, more love than most people have ever seen, but we deserve a lot of that to come back our way. That is reciprocity. And you get that when you are vetting people properly. So good to share some energy with you today. Let's see if there's any comments, and there are. Oh, my sweet Emily. Oh my God. I love you. You know what's so funny, girl? I was thinking about you recently. I was like, I gotta text Emily soon and see how she's doing. Hey, sweet Emily. Emily says, I can vouch that you are a replenisher. Saying no to hot pocket microwave love. Emily, don't we both know something about some hot pocket microwave love? Amen. I love that Emily popped in. I think everything happens for a reason at 4343. So that's an angel number that just happened on my clicker. Maybe let's check out what that means. Maybe I'll do another message about that. Emily is a parasocial relationship that I have built here, and I will share a tiny bit about us. And she's been watching my channel and I've been watching hers, and all of that stuff. When she had a channel, I don't know if she still has a channel, so forgive me, Emily, if I'm wrong about that. But hi, good morning, my love. Hi, good morning. And Emily and I took our time to get to know each other and speak about well vetting and everything. It took us maybe even a couple years before we connected in a real way, and that was because, and it was something that I was very honored, and even Emily acknowledged it in the moment. And she was like, this is so cool because we're kind of stepping out of this, but also she acknowledged, she was vulnerable with me, if I may share this, Emily. And she was like, it's also scary because like we're like stepping out of our parasocial safety net, if you will. And we didn't do that with, and you can vouch for this here, Emily, please. We didn't do that quickly. It didn't happen overnight. There are lots of little messages left and communications done parasocially before we stepped into the light. Thank you, Emily. She gave you permission. Before we stepped into the light, it took time. And Emily, yes, she's still here, so you can say if you agree with this or not. And even in us building a friendship out of a parasocial scope, it's taken time, and we have had to figure out boundaries, and we're still doing all of that. But I would say that we're definitely vetting each other properly. So she's like literally the earth angel that showed up here as a perfect example of a friendship that can happen, but it wasn't instantaneously. And both Emily and I come from places where we have had hot pocket and microwave situations. And so we really, even in just a friendship, have been very careful with one another, and I really value that. And so gosh, I love that she showed up this morning because it's a perfect example of what I'm talking about. It's not always romantic. It can be definitely friendship, and this is friendship. And I will tell you, it didn't happen overnight, and it's continuing to grow, and it's continuing to evolve, and we are still figuring out one another. And that's one of the best things about friendship. But that's my example is Miss Emily here. Things happen when they're supposed to happen, and you can't rush it. And the good things that stay in your life last because you've actually vetted them right. So Emily, thank you for showing up. You are literally my workplace. You're like my actual living example of proper vetting. Is there anything you want to say before I sign off, or anything that you want to add? I'm seeing if Emily's going to add anything, but guys, yeah, that's what I wanted to say to you guys this morning. So, it's been such a wonderful journey, and you can have these journeys with people in your life too. Nothing has to happen instantaneously. It takes time. Oh my gosh. So Emily says the irony is two toxic couples brought us together. C. Watts and M. Markey. Oh my goodness. That's so funny. I didn't realize that, but you're absolutely right. She's talking about Chris Watts, which is the guy who committed familial side and killed his family, Shanann Watts and Bella, and the other daughter. I can't think of the other daughter's name. Forgive me. And oh goodness, and the child as well. There was a boy that she was pregnant with. And Meghan Markle. Yeah, I made a video. I didn't know that's how you found me, Emily. That's so crazy. I made a video that went mini viral for my channel years ago, where I was talking about narcissistic behavior, and you can check that out. Just search like most popular videos on the channel anyway, and that's what brought us together. So yeah, Chris Watts and Meghan Markle, absolutely. So yeah, that's funny. The irony is two toxic couples that instantaneously got into microwave connections. Chris Watts specifically got into a microwave connection with Nicole Watts, which I really think is what, her name is not Watts. I don't know what her name is. Kessinger, Nicole Kessinger. That precipitated what I believe was the ending of Shanann Watts's life, is that he got infatuated with somebody and didn't vet her properly, and she was a hellstorm. And I don't think, I'm not blaming what he did. He committed the murders. He's absolutely a piece of shit, all of that. But I know the effects because I've watched it in my own life of someone getting with someone who's a karmic in their life and ruining their life. And they might be the one that commits the crime, but it was definitely helped and influenced by that person in their life. So yeah. Oh, thank you, Emily, for the shout out. She says it's a very worthy watch. So I'm giving my opinion on the Meghan Markle thing as well and my feeling on that. Anyway, that's still playing out as we speak, but we saw how it ended for Chris Watts and Shanann Watts, and that did not end well. And so that's how, isn't that funny? Thank you. That is a great irony, Emily. That is how Emily and I met parasocially. So a parasocial relationship is one that you have on YouTube or with anybody on social media of any kind, Facebook, Instagram, whatever the case may be. Those relationships happen in the vacuum of you watching your favorite YouTuber, you watching your favorite, content creator, or whatever the case may be. And she stumbled upon my videos, and then we became actual friends, but it took years. And I'm so grateful for it because she's such a bright light in my life in so many ways and is teaching me new lessons every day. So I am grateful for you, Emily. I'm so glad to see you. Thank you for popping on. You made this like come to life today, and I'm so glad that we got to spend some time. And I'm going to be texting you now. All right, guys, come back and join me next time, and we will continue to evolve together. I appreciate you too, Emily. You're welcome, sweetie.